I've always loved anything to do with self-help, development.
Is this a chapter?
Yeah.
So I want to hear the
okay.
date.
Chapter 2, Touched by an Angel. I've always loved anything to do with self-development, self-help. I've always loved anything to do with self-help, development, or personal growth, and was thrilled when my company selected me to attend a week-long development course led by the Global Institute for Leadership Development in Palm Desert, California. The conference agenda included well-known inspirational speakers and personalized breakout sessions with business coaches. It would be a welcome bonus to be back in the California warmth and sunshine as the East Coast was moving into the deep chills of winter. On the first day of the conference, lunch was held outdoors. The weather was spectacular, providing a nice break from the air-conditioned rooms. There were hundreds of people in attendance, providing a blurry buzz of noise in the background. I felt relaxed and happy to be silently soaking in the sun as I stood waiting my turn in the buffet line. My attention turned to two gentlemen ahead of me who were in a lively conversation, and I noted the confident stance of the man nearest me. A moment later, the conversation abruptly stopped and he spun around. Our eyes met as we were about the same height and less than an arm's length apart. He offered a warm smile and enthusiastically asked, "Hi, what's your name and where are you from?"
Good storytelling.
His penetrating gaze jolted me with an infusion of energy as we quickly engaged in conversation. The self-reflecting thoughts in my head fell away, and I became incredibly present to him in that moment, responding, "Hi, I'm Beth, and I live in New Jersey."
So good.
He introduced himself as Robert, and the conversation that flowed flowed effortlessly. His mannerisms came across as unpretentious, yet...
So if you did that in the studio, you're going to have to back up and do it again.
No.
So do it again.
Okay.
So if you do that, so stop yourself and start again and see how far you can go.
He introduced himself as Robert, and the conversation that followed flowed effortlessly. His mannerisms came across as unpretentious.
Okay, so in the studio, I would stop you, and I'd want to, no, it's okay, because now we're going to get, so, mannerisms. I needed to hear the word more clearly. That's
Okay.
Punch in and...
He introduced himself as Robert, and the conversation that followed flowed effortlessly. His mannerisms came across as unpretentious, yet there was a dynamism in his voice. He looked Northern European, but said that he lived on the West Coast.
So you'd punch it. So from now on, I'm just gonna, if you make a mistake, no, I want you to take it to the start of the sentence, as though you were in the studio.
Yep.
He
looked Northern European, but said that he lived on the West Coast, owned a winery, and had brought a few members of his executive team to the conference. As we moved along the buffet line, we continued chatting. I commented on Malcolm Gladwell's session, where the author had shared insights on intuition from his book, Blink, which had recently been launched. Although I couldn't put my finger on it, there was something very particular about this gentleman. Because I started my career in sales, conversations with strangers were easy for me. But this was different. It didn't feel like an ordinary encounter or connection. I brushed it off until later that evening when I left the outdoor team building event. From across the outdoor patio, I noticed the two gentlemen from the lunch line walking directly toward me. They were easy to spot. They were both tall, and Robert stood out with his blonde, wavy hair and light complexion. Our eyes met as we walked toward one another.
So there's that
smiling.
pause, break, thought change.
Yeah, okay.
So think
Just
about the
pause, yes.
Pause, break. It's like shifting gears in a car.
Yeah.
It is. It's like
Okay.
press neutral
Okay.
and engage in a different tone.
Our eyes met as we walked toward one another smiling. This meeting seemed serendipitous, and we stopped to chat. Witnessing our easy flow, Robert's colleague asked how we knew each other, apparently not recognizing me from the lunch line. This prompted me to tease him by making up a story of how Robert and I knew each other from Neuchâtel, Switzerland. Out of nowhere, I found myself describing details like the 70% chocolate was wonderful and one of my favorites. As I looked at Robert to see
even more. When you do it tomorrow, you're going to do even more fun. Because this is so fun to listen to read. It's like, I pictured this so exact from reading it.
Okay.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Chocolate.
Out of nowhere, I found myself describing details like the 70% chocolate was wonderful and one of my favorites. As I looked at Robert to see if he would play along, he smiled as if encouraging me to say more. I continued, and the white chateau and landscape were breathtaking. Robert nodded in agreement and seemed to be having fun with this ruse, eager to hear what I was going to say next. Hear what I was going to say. Even I wondered what would come out next. I wasn't typically a prankster storyteller. Today, however, something was different. It almost felt like I was retrieving this story from an actual memory. Although it didn't take long for me to break into laughter, admitting we'd all met in the lunch line hours earlier. He exchanged a few niceties, business cards.
Admitting that we had all met it didn't take me long to break into laughter, admitting that we had all met in the lunch line earlier.
It didn't take long for me to although it didn't take long for me to break into laughter, admitting we'd all met in the lunch line hours earlier. We exchanged a few niceties, business cards, and parted ways. But I couldn't shake the feeling of familiarity and ease that came through as I continued to reflect on this encounter. The breaks during...
I'm sorry, I'm not interrupting, but you're doing it now. You're beginning to... those adjectives are your stepping stones, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're hooking in with
Well, I'm also finding that I'm actually envisioning where I'm standing, where I'm having this conversation more. So that's like bringing the energy in.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the conveyance.
But there'll be some chapters where I don't want to feel like I'm there.
And you won't. You don't have to.
Well, I do, because I have to tell people that that's...
Yeah, but you can still, there's an insulation. There's a technique, so you don't have to re-traumatize yourself.
Okay. The breaks during our leadership seminars provided several opportunities to connect.
Okay, I'm going to go back. So start that again. I want to hear the enunciation.
Okay. The breaks during our leadership seminars provided several opportunities to connect. There seemed to be a gravitational pull as we'd find ourselves near one another, sharing insights regarding this recent session's content. Interestingly, we expressed similar viewpoints about the topics that were being discussed. He asked me about my career, and we made some small talk about the pharmaceutical industry. Although it was highly confidential, I felt compelled to share that I was considering leaving my corporate life to work full-time with my husband to build a wine cellar furniture company. What was it about Robert that compelled me to share details about this business idea that I hadn't even yet shared with family and friends?
Such a key question. That's another one. All these hinge point. No, it was fine. You're good. You're there. Okay. You can even go like when there's, what's the sentence before that? Give me that change one more time.
Although it was highly confidential, I felt compelled to share that I was considering leaving my corporate life to work full-time with my husband to build a wine cellar furniture company. What was it about Robert that compelled me to share details about this business idea that I hadn't yet even shared with family and friends?
That's it. It's like that shift, that change. What? You know, it's like this question. What is? That's the resonant in the all the women and the people that are listening to it, who have been in the same and similar situation. Yeah. What was it? Yeah. Because these inquiry pivot points. Yeah. What? Who? Why? How? What is I'm feeling now that I don't feel here? Yeah. They're so pivotal. Okay. It resonated with me when I got to that point.
Okay, good. All right, should I keep going here or should I go to the...
Just give me that transition one more time. What was it about Robert?
What was it about Robert that compelled me to share details about this business idea that I hadn't yet even shared with family and friends? Stuart and I had recently ideated this concept during a business trip to the High Point Furniture Show in North Carolina. While speaking with a potential Peruvian manufacturer, we quickly saw an opportunity to design unique wine cellar furniture with reclaimed gates from Peru. We were excited about it, as it would allow me to work in a lifestyle business and would support my desire to begin our family. I loved my marketing career, but didn't feel I could be the mom I was dreaming of being if I continued to work long hours as a marketing executive in a high-profile corporate position. Robert asked me some questions. Okay.
Perfect. See, now you're really,
Okay.
okay. You're telling us.
This is helpful, yeah. Okay. So should I?
Keep going. Just keep going here a little more from that part.
Okay. Robert asked me some questions about distribution channels for the furniture, none of which I knew at that point, but would soon have to figure out. Since Robert owned a winery, it was apparent. Since Robert, see, why do I add that?
Okay, so
in there,
this is
since Robert owned a winery.
So I will also want to hear you. I'm just going to give you this enunciate. I want you to each word, like, that's the concentration part.
Okay. Since Robert owned a winery, it was apparent that he would have some great insights to tap into as I created a business plan for this budding company. But for now, this was a side project, and I was dedicated full-time to my pharmaceutical marketing career. Eager to have some additional conversations with Robert, I hoped to see him at the closing banquet. Within moments of my arrival, he emerged from across the room filled with hundreds of people walking directly towards me. With a disappointed tone in his voice, he said, "Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave early and take my team home tonight. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave early and take my team home tonight." At that moment, I couldn't hold back and expressed I'd hoped we'd have more time to chat. He agreed and said, "We know how to reach each other. Let's be in touch." Our connection was noticeable, and I was attracted to his energy, but it didn't feel like romantic.
Okay, so if you're in the studio, you're going to have to self-correct his energy. You're going to have to go back, because I didn't hear his energy.
Our connection was noticeable, and I was attracted to his energy, but it didn't feel like romantic chemistry. It felt like we were old friends reconnecting. Which was intriguing and left me wanting to explore more. Left me wanting to explore.
What does it say? Explore more?
Yeah.
Okay, so read that
sentence
again.
It says me wanting to explore.
Okay, so just read it again, that sentence.
Okay. Our connection was noticeable, and I was attracted to his energy, but it didn't feel like romantic chemistry. It felt like we were old friends reconnecting, which was intriguing and left me wanting to explore.
Good.
In these moments, I saw that we had some things in common and that he could provide some excellent business advice. Upon returning home, I shared with Stuart about the wonderful connection I'd made with Robert. We were both enthusiastic about how his wine expertise and possible distribution connections could be of great value to our wine cellar furniture company.
Okay, for some reason, you're swallowing your words here. You're not projecting. So go back, do that sentence, and tell the story.
Okay. Upon returning home, I shared with Stuart about the wonderful connection I'd made with Robert. We were both enthusiastic about how his wine expertise and possible distribution connections could be of great value to our wine cellar furniture company. He remained
enthusiastic.
Oh.
Go back to enthusiastic.
We were both enthusiastic about how his wine expertise and possible distribution connections could be of great value to our wine cellar furniture company. I remained eager to link up in the future. A few months after I returned from the development seminar, Stuart surprised me with a new twist in our life plan. There weren't many things I recalled making deals on in my marriage, but we had agreed never to ask each other to move back to our hometowns in Oklahoma or North Dakota.
So important.
I grew up in a town of 2,500 people, and while Oklahoma City was much larger, we both said that neither place would be on our list of places to settle down. Now, he'd somehow concluded, and was trying to convince me that Oklahoma City was the only place we could live where I could quit my corporate job and start a family. The way Stuart presented this new idea made it seem non-negotiable. And once again, I'd have to suck it up to fulfill my husband's dreams.
So important part of the story.
Was it?
So yes, it's very good. You're not overdoing it. You're not overtelling it. You go back and do it that last section one more time, because like this is a rehearsal, and just kind of bring on that flow to it.
Just like
bit.
the last couple sentences?
Yeah, just about,
okay.
Yeah.
Now he'd somehow concluded and was trying to convince me that Oklahoma was the only place?
Convince, more than me. He was trying to convince me as opposed to me.
Okay.
Emphasis.
And was trying to convince me that Oklahoma City was the only place we could live where I could quit my corporate job and start a family. The way Stuart presented this new idea made it seem non-negotiable. And once again, I'd have to suck it up to fulfill my husband's dreams.
Perfect. So there's this audience out. I'm in a bookstore right now.
Okay.
And tomorrow also, this is part of it, there is an audience. You've got to kind of have that awareness that you are performing in a way, even though therell be no audience there.
Right.
That'll help you keep your concentration on the storytelling aspect of it. You want to skip to it, just a random somewhere?
I think so. Yeah, I think let's go to...
Is there anything you want to ask or anything you want to get feedback or any...
I don't know what I don't know, so I think this is
But I'm watching you take the direction. Some people can take it and incorporate it right away, and others it takes longer. You're doing it. You're taking
a quick study?
Yeah, you're a quick study.
Okay, good. I wondered if, I think I want to just have you help me with the kiss part, because that's also really important, and then the devil part.
Okay.
Okay.
The kiss and the devil.
Okay. On the day of departure, Robert,
Is this a chapter?
This is still
somewhere in the chapter. Okay.
A few days before my departure to California, I received a call from Robert. He would be passing through New York City on the day I planned to travel from New Jersey to San Francisco. Knowing this, he invited me to fly with him on his private jet.
A little bit of projection.
Knowing this, he invited me to fly with him on his private jet, which would allow us to spend more time together. I shared my excitement with Stuart that night as we sat outside on our beautiful stone steps, sipping a bold glass of red. We discussed this as a unique opportunity to build a relationship for our wine business while flying with Robert across the United States. Stuart wasn't the jealous type and happily encouraged me to go, and so I did. On the day of departure, Robert and I planned to meet in a coffee shop in New York and take a car service to the airport together. It was tricky navigating the small spaces as I had a substantial piece of luggage and nervously fumbled around getting a table. Moments after I arrived, Robert was sitting in front of me and magic seemed to enter the room. As we sipped our cappuccinos, we effortlessly engaged in conversation. Time passed quickly until our conversation was interrupted by a call from the car service, alerting us that the driver was waiting outside to take us to Teterboro Airport.
Have a little fun with this. A little the drive. Not
Okay.
over the top,
Okay.
but just have fun. How cool
okay.
it is. You're just about to go get on a private
Okay.
jet. It's so
Time
cool.
Time passed quickly until our conversation was interrupted from a call from the car service, alerting us that the driver was waiting outside to take us to Teterboro Airport. Getting into the back of the car together felt familiar and comfortable, almost like we'd done it before. By the time we arrived at the airport, I was slightly disoriented by the intensity of our connection as we navigated the protocol at the See, I think my sentences are so damn long. And
No, it's
okay.
fine.
Okay.
It's perfect. Just have those. Take those pause. Take the natural.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. By the time we arrived at the airport, I was slightly disoriented by the intensity of our conversation as we...
Start again.
By the time we arrived at the airport, I was slightly disoriented by the intensity of our connection as we navigated through the protocol at the Millionaire. The sentence is
okay.
bad. By the time we
it's not.
arrived in the airport, I was slightly disoriented by the intensity of our connection as we navigated through the protocol at the Millionaire terminal for private aircraft.
As we navigated through the
Protocol. As we navigated through the protocol at the Millionaire terminal for private aircraft.
Okay, so
I think it's a badly structured sentence.
yes, it's okay. No, it happens.
Can't change that.
It's a little late now, but it's editing second edition.
Yeah.
So you can, as we navigated the protocol, just kind of skip through it
Yeah.
in a way.
Okay. Okay.
But you're fine. Read that sentence again.
Why do I lose myself here?
It's all right because it's small font.
Very small.
Too small
Okay.
for me.
By the time we arrived at the airport.
By the time we arrived at the airport.
By the time we arrived at the airport, I was slightly disoriented by the intensity of our connection.
So by the time we arrived at the airport, I was, again, have fun with it. I was slightly by the intensity of our.
Okay.
It was like, what is
Okay.
going on here?
Right.
So let me give you one little clue.
Okay.
In acting, it's called inner monologue.
Okay.
Do you know about? Are you familiar with
No.
this term? Okay. So when you deliver a line, in fact, I used to go to acting classes, and then you'd have an entire speech to give, and the director or the teacher would have us write the line that motivated you to say that line. So what were you feeling? So there's a whole inner monologue. Does that make sense? You don't have to write those words, but you got to get to what motivated you to say that, to feel that. It's your real, does that make sense?
Yeah, well, what the motivation of why I wrote that line was that it was a lot to take in, because I was literally disoriented from the intensity of our connection.
Right.
And then I'm also and now I'm at a private terminal, and I'm going not through your normal protocol at Newark, New
Right.
Jersey airport, but the pilots and the crew are coming to the car taking the luggage, and it was just how you want to stay present in the conversation, but then you're like, but wait, this is a different routine, and this is cool, and you want to experience
Exactly. So I want you to read it exactly like you're gesturing and exactly how your eyes are opening.
Yeah.
That's the reading.
Right.
That's
you want to experience the coolness, but I also want it to be calm.
Lay back.
I
get
was
it.
I don't want to be too
I
excited.
get it. I get it. It's a great it's a turning point.
Yeah, my phone just stopped. I don't know where it stopped at, but okay. All right, so let's get to the kiss, and then we can because I just really I don't want to hold this too long.
Yeah, and I don't want to break your flow. Am I breaking your flow by interjecting?
It's all good.
Okay.
I mean, we're not recording, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm just trying to give you pointers and hear what I'm hearing, because it's just the main thing of shifting. You're doing it when you can see. I can see your body shift back to reading. And then it's this gesturing.
I think I have to allow myself, and you're helping me, to be more animated, to really sit in the emotion of it and not try to control myself so much. Okay. I was the mediator in my husband's business all through my marriage. He always had issues with people. and he'd often delegate me to clean up the messes he'd made. He had a pompous way of speaking to people, which almost always resulted in me having to salvage the task, project, or personal relationship. It became a daunting task because we were so misaligned in principles. I found it energizing to have open conversations about people and management styles on the plane with Robert. There wasn't a moment of silence until somewhere over the middle of the United States, while at 30,000 feet, Robert leaned over and gently kissed me. I was stunned. I felt connected and attracted to him, but was not consciously thinking anything romantic. I was married. Much to my surprise, I had ever so naturally kissed him back, and my body reacted on a cellular level. Fireworks went off, lighting me up inside and causing a glow as sparks flew.
Okay,
Fireworks.
take a break.
Yeah.
Go back to where you corrected. Breathe in.
Yeah.
You're picking up where you left off.
Yeah.
Because you're right in the flow.
Yeah.
So stay in that flow just
Yeah.
because you broke it.
I think it's one thing to write personal feelings, and it's another thing to say them.
I get it.
Even though these are good feelings, but
Yeah. No, but you're doing. I mean, I got it. I got the whole setting. Shivers up my spine.
Fireworks went off. Fireworks went off, lighting me up inside and causing a glow as sparks flew. I had no idea where this was going, but I knew there was no turning back. I could never unknow what this felt like or forget this moment, nor did I want to. I felt treasured, seen, and appreciated.
Good.
It was a pure, magical, and unexpected connection.
Treasured, seen.
Did I not emphasize that?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I'm
felt
just saying
treasured,
maybe.
seen,
I mean, it's so key,
appreciated.
and you're doing it now.
Okay.
You're emphasizing, because when I'm just thinking, I felt treasure. I can relate to that. I can relate to, like, suddenly you're getting fed. So anyway.
Okay. All right. So
you're
now,
conveying the story now.
Now let's go to the devil.
The devil.
Devil.
Spell lived backwards. Did you know that?